Hey everyone, and welcome to Groove Builders, the show where we create together. I'm your host, Disorderly Cone, and in this episode, we're finally going to get to the Time for Machine Dazzling Steam Liner. Now, who are Time for Machine? Well, they are a company that make models out of wood and metal that have some kind of moving part. Now, some of these can be pretty easy to build, while others can be quite complicated, and the Dazzling Steam Liner is definitely on the complicated side of things. Now, this model also has some history to it, and for that, you definitely want to check out this video right here. But now to finally have that model, I'm not going to go into all of that. They also have a new Kickstarter program, which I did not invest in for those things right there, but I might check out some of those models in the future, all depending on how that campaign goes. Alright Groovers, now what do we need to build the Dazzling Steam Liner? Are there any tricky bits, and does it work? Well, these are some really basic and good questions. Let's get down to the workbench and take a look at the package.
Okay, I think it's finally time to get to this one. Get all that dust off. Groove Builders, welcome to the workbench. We finally have our Dazzling Steam Liner from Time for Machine. And this build promises to be very, very intricate with all of its moving parts and of course thick pieces. This is very different from our typical metal model here on the show. What do I mean? Well, let's open up this kit and find out. Yes, now first thing, because this was a Kickstarter campaign, I actually got a custom part. This is my Groove Builders piece. Looks pretty cool. Let me see if I can get that up to the camera here. See? Really kind of cool. I mean, nice little etching. Let's put that to the side. Oh, there's a tab here. That's what it is. Alright, there we go. Oh, I forgot that actually came out. Put it to the side. There is all of our metal. Woo! Woohoo! This is more fun than the model is. Just kidding. Put to the side. And these are all of our gears. There's a lot more here than what we had with our tank previously, but I don't think this is going to be all that complicated. Alright, with all of this out, let's take a look at our instructions. Okay, it looks like we have a whopping 67 pages of bending to get through. But a lot of these pages only have one or two things on them, so I don't think it's going to be that bad. Looking a little bit closer though, the first thing we're going to talk about is all of these gears and how to align them correctly. The second thing will be about the add-on detail, like our sides and the front of the train. And finally, we'll tell you everything you need to know about the wheels and how to get your train moving correctly.
With all of these interestingly shaped parts and the need for accuracy, I wonder what kind of tools we'll need. Timothy?
Chugga chugga choo choo, Blaine is a pain, and that's the truth. Although you may not need riddles to complete this build, you will need rasp, pliers, both long and short, doming tools, and tweezers.
Geez, Timothy, I've never seen a Dalek so excited to build a steam liner before. Keep in mind, I'm the conductor on the first trip. Crazy Dalek. Now, these are just our recommendations for tools, and you really don't need anything but a really good rasp and some pliers to build the steam liner. But of course, having all of these tools will make everything a lot easier. Alright, now we've looked at our instructions and we have all of our tools. There's only one thing left to do. Hey, thanks for making it so far into the video. Now before we get into the nitty-gritty of what you need to know for building the Dazzling Steam Liner, I want to talk about this little Stormtrooper model right here. Now sometimes when I order from different parts of the world, the models actually get damaged, and unfortunately the two Stormtrooper ones I ordered got damaged. Now one of them I'm going to use for a build video. This one here though, I really don't know what to do with it. So I thought I would ask you guys at home what you think I should do. I'm kind of leaning more towards a giveaway, but again, I'm kind of puzzled about how to go about that. Should I open it up to Facebook groups, because there's a ton of them out there, and also should I open it up to the Reddit? I think the more people could see it, the better, but again, I would love to hear your comments at home. Alright, let me put this down, and I look forward to reading everything you guys say. Okay, and now with that out of the way, we can get back to the Dazzling Steam Liner tips and tricks. GB1, put us over. Okay, you're right. Don't forget to like and subscribe. GB1 won't let us go until you do. No rush at all. Don't worry, we're good. Got all day. There we go, GB1, we're good. All right, let's get to it.
The Time for Machine Dazzling Steam Liner is a beautiful model that requires just as much prep work as it does build time. All the parts need to be sanded down after being taken out of their holders because of these little sharp burrs that are left. I didn't film a whole lot of sanding because let's face it, that's pretty boring.
1 hour later.
Okay, very boring, but I can't tell you how important it is to do a good job on all of your pieces. These models require precision, and having all of your pieces work smoothly together is key. Which brings us to our first point, aligning all the gears correctly. Now, we do have a lot less gears here in comparison to our Marvel tank that we did a little while ago, video in the description, but these are moving a lot more weight. Let's start with the gears that attach to the spring. All of our gears have a unique look and size. After grabbing the right gears while installing them on the shaft, it's important to make sure the washer ends are bent slightly inwards. These small bends are going to catch the gears, helping you wind up the train. Make sure these lock, but are able to move freely if needed. Next, we start to build our gears. For the most part, they are built the same way. Ensuring the gears are tightly installed on their shafts is the key to a strong movement. The less wobble, the better. After our last wheel has been made, it's time to install them on our train. Make sure to put the gears in this order starting from the drive shaft. A1, A2, A3, and then our big wheel here. Getting all these loose gears in place can be a little bit tricky, but if you lean it to one side, it might make it a little easier for you to get everything in the right place and close the model. Now, it's very important when it comes to closing this model that everything is square. I didn't do a good job here myself, and it cost me a lot of work later. Save yourself the hardship and take a little bit more time to make sure everything is square before securing it together. Are your gears all still lined up? Okay, great. That means we can move on to our next point, which is all about adding detail onto our train. For our second point, let's start by talking about the sides of our train. In the instruction booklet that I received, this part was very confusing. I didn't understand how to match the parts to the diagram that I was given, but in the new instructions off their website, this is a lot more clear. We start with forming the lower outer bumper, using the diagram to get the right bend. You can match the part right up to where the picture is and then shape it. This makes the whole process a lot easier. For the second bigger part, we do the same thing, match the bend to the paper diagram. I recommend shaping these pieces in multiple bends rather than just using one big one. You'll avoid hot spots and also you'll be a lot more accurate with the shaping. After all of our side parts are shaped, we can attach them together and then put them onto our train. When securing the tabs, make sure not to overbend them. The tabs here don't need to be bent over like in Metal Earth models, and a quarter turn will do just fine. For the other side of the train, we do the exact same thing. If you ordered the Kickstarter, however, then you have a special part. This is where that piece comes into play. One thing you will notice when looking at this part is that there's no scoring or lines to help you bend or shape this piece. This makes getting the right shape a lot harder. Try your best to match the other side the best you possibly can. This is definitely the time you want to try to get that front shape correct. After you've installed this piece, it's a lot harder to go back and try to shape the front. Another tricky part of this build is the detail that we have to attach to the wheels. These parts need to fit together in the right orientation. Make sure to double and triple check your instructions to make sure the parts are being put in the right way. After bending the wings, if you will, and also shaping the cylinder, it's time to put them together. That's not the tricky bit. This part is. The dumbbell part needs to be in the middle, and of course, on either end of this dumbbell part is a track that needs to go on the outer edges of our wings. Yep, it's as complicated to say as it is to actually do. Now, the best way to get this done is to deal with two sides at a time. By one side being done, you can slowly force the other side into place. This is not easy and takes time to complete. Tweezers can definitely be useful here, but brute force might also be required. Just don't break the part. This train won't work very well with bent or broken parts. And speaking of getting this train moving, The third and final thing we need to talk about is getting this train moving. And for that, we need to take a look at our wheels. All of our wheels are built very similar to one another, with small changes for size, detail, and, well, the drive wheel. When making our wheels, make sure to keep everything straight. If the wheel axles get bent, this may cause the wheel to drag on the tracks and stop the train. When it becomes time to install your wheels onto your train, it's very important to open all the eyelets. The wheels should slide easily into place if they're open enough. When it comes time to close them, however, take care to make sure the eyelets are completely lined up with the cuts in the axle. I can't stress this enough. I think the number one cause for the wheels not spinning correctly is misalignment. And I have to admit, getting everything to work smoothly here takes a lot of finagling. Keep in mind that when you place the train on the tracks, the weight of the train will actually push the wheels up into the train. So there might be some tabs and little bits of metal that we have to move out of the way to get those wheels moving correctly. Now, the most important wheel is the drive wheel. That's the one that has the gear on it. This wheel needs to be the lowest of all the wheels. If this wheel doesn't move freely and doesn't have good contact with the track, well, this train isn't going anywhere. One thing I've realized with my train is that it appears this wheel sits higher than the rest of them, making it really hard to get this train running correctly. I think the part that has the eyelets for the drive wheel was manufactured just slightly too small, but it also could have been me somehow warping this piece. I've tried everything that I can to bring this wheel down and to get this train moving. Let's see how I did. Okay, and now we have the moment of truth. I've come in really close here to try to get the best angle possible so you can see how everything kind of moves and works. And the first thing we need to do is take our little switch here and lock it into place. This is going to make sure the train doesn't move. I've also gone ahead and made sure that all of our wheels here are nice and in place on our track. There's actually kind of like a lip that goes around with all of these wheels, and if they're not in place, the train won't move properly. Okay. Now we're going to wind it up. I'm going to use my other hand here to make it a little bit more appealing. Okay, that should be enough. Now, if everything was done correctly, this should move. Okay, let's see. Bring it right here. We have track 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, it wants to work, but like I said, there's a few problems here that we have to address. Let me back up the camera a little bit and let's talk about it. Okay, now as I said earlier, all of these wheels do have to be in contact with the track for it to work, but the drive wheel here seems to be having some issue making contact. That's why we have that little spin there. Now when we look at the bottom, right here is this little wheel that I'm speaking of. And right on this little piece right here at the bottom, let's see if I can get really close up here. This little piece right here is the issue. It's not pushing this wheel down, and instead it's allowing it to rest too far up. You see how this wheel here is too far up, all the other ones hang down, which means that all of these are creating a kind of a dragging effect. And, well, this wheel can't push itself and ultimately push the train forward. Now, could I get this running? Well, I think with some real tinker time, I probably could. But right now, I just don't have the time to be able to dedicate to this to be able to get it working correctly. But I also have to say that the mechanical mechanism here is definitely shoddy. To me, it almost feels like this should have been just a tad bit longer on the inside in order to really make sure that this drive wheel works. And I almost wonder if the ones that are sold in stores have that corrected. It would definitely be something to check out because there are models out there that work really well, like this one right here. Okay, now let's put this on the track and get back out.
And there we have it, the Dazzling Steam Liner from Time for Machine. This build is massive, but it looks really awesome when complete. I mean, just look at all these really cool gears and the wheels too. Not to mention that front end. I think that looks really awesome. Now, can I recommend this build for new builders out there? No, I really can't. This build takes a lot of tinkering, and you're gonna need a lot of time to put everything in its correct place. I can't stress enough how hard it is to make all of these wheels line up correctly to get this mechanism working. And if I'm being really honest, right now, this thing isn't working the way it needs to be. That drive wheel is having a really hard time making connection with the train and allowing everything to pull forward. There are two different versions of this model, one that was offered in the Kickstarter campaign and another one that's offered on their website. The reason why I know this is because the instruction booklets are a little bit different. Yes, the parts are the same, but how they tell you to bend everything is different, and that's very important. I think if you're using a booklet from the Kickstarter campaign, you might want to put that aside and actually use the website version, because I think it will help you actually get this thing running. It's really unfortunate that I don't have the time right now to sit down and tinker with this model to get it working correctly. I do think that with some time, I could get it done. I've just been in and out of the hospital the last 2 weeks, and I really want to move on to other models that we have here on the wall. But I digress. Getting back to the model here, if you enjoy tinkering and like a really challenging build, this is definitely one you want to take a look at. And if you invest the time, you'll have a really nice piece for your office or home place. And with that, Groove Builders, we're at the end of our show. I had a really good time building the Dazzling Steam Liner from Time for Machine with you, and if you guys had a good time, don't forget to press that like button. For more videos like this, hit subscribe as well, as we got all kinds of really awesome builds coming out in the future. Want to help the channel grow? Check out groovebuilders.ca. We got all kinds of really awesome models on there at great prices with fast shipping. Alright, now with this guy complete, I can finally put it on my wall. The question is, where? Until next time, keep building.